Okay, so now we're back. We took a nice little break. My dough has been in the refrigerator for about an hour, and in that time I cleaned up a little bit and I got the ingredients ready for our filling for our pumpkin pasties. So I'll just show you guys what we have here. We have 1 cup about of pumpkin filling. 100% pumpkin, and make sure that it's not pumpkin pie filling. You just want to make sure that it's 100% pumpkin. You'll find it right in the ingredients. If it says anything other than pumpkin and maybe water, it's not what you want. And here we have 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar, 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg, of ground nutmeg, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I added just a little bit more of the spices because there might be a little bit more of the canned pumpkin because we had to get one of those giant cans of pumpkin, and I don't know exactly how much is in there, so just to be on the safe side I added a little bit more of the spices. But if you get just a regular can of pumpkin, a regular 15 or 16 ounce can, you should be fine. You won't have to add more than 1/8 of the spices. So we're going to transfer our pumpkin and our spice mixture into a bigger bowl, just so that's easier to work with. That does not look appetizing yet. And just add our sugar and spice. Oh, okay. It's been in the bowl for a little while, so it's kind of hardened, thanks to the humidity in the air. Just going to give it a really, really, really good mix together and make sure that everything is evenly distributed throughout the mixture. Okay, so that should be pretty good. Okay, so we'll just set that over off to the side, and now I'll pull out my dough that's been chilling for about an hour in the refrigerator. Here's a nice little trick for a lot of you. Some of you may know it, especially if you enjoy baking or if you've baked a lot before. Some of you may not, so I'll share it anyway. When you're rolling out dough, the dough can definitely get really, really sticky, and it could tear very easily, both on the rolling pin and on the cutting board or wherever you decide to cut the dough. So just go ahead and take some all-purpose flour and sprinkle it on all of the surfaces that you're going to be using. The cutting board, counter, whatever you decide to use. Also, it's a good idea to coat the rolling pin that you use to roll out the dough, because you don't want any reason for anything to stick and make more unnecessary work for yourself. Okay. Don't necessarily have to go crazy. I did go a little bit crazy, but that's okay. Just put back whatever you don't use, as long as your surface is clean. You don't want to be recycling old ingredients. That would be gross. Okay, so now that that's all set, you can take your dough, you might even want to pat your hands a little bit just to be on the safe side, and just kind of smush the dough just a little bit, just so it's a little easier to work with, and then you're going to roll your dough out until it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. This will be the dough itself, when you cut it, it'll be really fragile, so you'll have to be careful with it, and you'll probably have to be really patient too. If it breaks, just start over again. It's really not a tragedy at all. That you can save it, but you'll have to be very careful and very patient with it, because if you move too quickly, your dough will crack and it will break, and then it just won't be good for presentation of your dessert. Alright, so that looks like it's pretty good. It might be a little thick. It's a little bit more flour. Whenever you go and re-roll your dough, make sure that you flour your rolling pin just so that it doesn't stick. It's very important. Okay. I just found another chunk of butter in my dough. Okay. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to cut our dough into little 6-inch rounds. I have a cereal bowl, and this bowl is pretty good. It's about 6 inches. It doesn't have to be perfect. Yours may be a little smaller, a little bigger. Don't go crazy. It's not a big deal if it's not exactly 6 inches. So we're going to go ahead and start making our round dough cutouts. Perfect. There's one. And if it looks to be a little too thick to you, like mine looks to be pretty thick, a little too thick actually, like I said, just go ahead and flour your rolling pin a little bit, maybe dust a little bit on the dough. And roll it out just till it's a little thinner. Make life easier for everything and everyone. Okay, perfect. Okay, and it comes out nice and easily, which that's another important tip that I want to put out. Before you start putting your filling onto your pasty, make sure that your dough comes off of the cutting board easily like that, because if not, you will fight the dough and it will not be good for the dessert at all, I promise. Okay, I'm going to grab your filling, and you're going to be a little liberal with the filling. You don't want to overstuff it by any means, but you don't want to skimp out either. So just put maybe a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons, depending on how big your pasty is. Like that seems like I might have eaten. Believe it or not, that itself looks like I might have overstuffed it, but we'll see. Yeah, definitely might have actually. Huh. It works. Sweet. Okay. And now we're going to just lightly pinch the edges around with a fork. Just take a nice regular fork and just pinch the edges. The theory is that they will pinch shut and nothing will ooze out. Really easy, just right around the edges. Another very important thing, make sure that you poke little holes through the dough, just that way your pasty doesn't blow up in the oven. I put a little H in mine for Hogwarts. See how cute that is? It's perfect. Alright, we're about to put our pasties into our preheated oven at 400 degrees, and I just wanted to share this little tip with you, probably, excuse me. If you've baked before, then you'll know this tip. If not, then at least you learned something today. What I did was I cracked one egg into a bowl, and I'm just going to whisk it up really well. Kind of like you're making scrambled eggs. And when we set our pasties onto our cooking pan, onto our cooking sheet, and for any of you who are wondering, I just lined my cooking sheet with aluminum foil. You don't have to do this. You can line it with wax paper. You don't have to line it at all. I'm just doing it in case the filling spills out. It'll be easier and quicker cleanup for me. It all depends on what you want to do. So just go ahead and lay your pasties on the cooking sheet. Like so. And what we're going to do now is we're going to grab a basting brush, which for those of you who don't know, a pasting brush looks like this. It's like a barbecue brush. And we're going to dip it in our whipped egg, and we're just going to brush it on top of each little pasty. A lot of people do this with pies, and what it does is it kind of puts a really, really nice, pretty golden brown finish to the top of them. And it just kind of makes it, you know, just a little more crispy, a little, the presentation looks better. It's just nice. Adds a little bit of a more enhanced taste, all that happy jazz. So make sure that each pasty has a generous coating. Now, for any of you who may know me, you know I am not a butter fan. Like, I'll eat it if it's with something, but I never ever go for butter. But this is one of those necessary times. Now, if you're like me, the dough may have mixed back together when you're going back and forth. So just make sure that you go over your seams that you made, the little vents in your pasties, just so nothing breaks up. Okay, perfect. And now we are going to throw them into our oven. And they are going to stay into our oven for a half an hour or until completely cooked through, nice and golden brown. So I will see you in a half an hour with these really delicious treats.